Hi, this is Bob Georgiou with Remax Accord again. Finally getting around to the vlog that you've all been waiting for, the 3 ways to sell a house. In the first vlog, we discussed the 3 different ways to sell a property. Brass ring sale, market level sale, fast sale. In the second video, I glossed over agency and salespeople, the fact that our job is a salesperson has the rights and responsibilities of an agent, of agency, and that is legally defined in the law as putting the client's interest over our individual interest as salespeople. So the first method we're going to discuss is the fast sale method, where a seller strategically lists a property below the comparable sales in the neighborhood. When we discuss setting a price for a property, what we mean is coming up with an educated guess as to what price the property will attract a qualified buyer who will close on the property. And what better way to do that is to price low and attract a bunch of these people and get them to compete for the one property that exactly meets their needs, to the extent you can find that in our area. The pros, of course, are that you get a fast sale. No doubt about that. Usually when you strategically price low on the day you settle for offers, you will end up with multiple offers and typically higher than the price that is on the contract. Number 2, you'll usually find the strongest buyers when you get more than one offer. By driving multiple offers, you'll get multiple buyers, and you will be able to strategically decide, looking at the offers as the way they were written, as to which buyer is the strongest. Now, the strongest buyer and the most money are not always the same person, and we'll talk about that in a later vlog. The other benefit is that you'll usually get a faster close. So this process is ideally suited to somebody who has to move quickly, and wants to get the most amount of money that's in the market at the current time. So this last point is the crux of the multiple offer driven sale, is that you are attracting offers and contracts from people who are currently in the market. Now, I've decided that we're going to do another vlog on this after I go through the 3 ways, because there's a long discussion that could be had on this one topic. So the downsides of the multiple offer strategy are, it seems to be, seemingly it's none. Common sense wise, you're going to say, well, if I'm getting a fast sale with, all the money that's in the market currently, how can there be any downsides? There are many downsides, actually, to this process. And the devil is always in the details. And if your house is not perfect, if the house needs work, needs cosmetics, it doesn't matter whether it's a little work or a lot of work, the house isn't in a hotly desired area, you could be leaving money on the table if the dollars are important to you in that fashion. Hi everybody, it's Bob Georgiou again. You see I'm dressed a little bit differently, and so I was editing the video and I realized I only went over one of the 3 reasons why the multiple offer situation may or may not be optimal in certain situations. Reason number 2 is that for the last 3 years we've been in a mostly flat real estate market. It's been up, it's been down, really prone to quarterly cycles. Selling in the fourth quarter are down, our 3 to 5% down has come back after a few years of going away through the subside, and July is pretty much a dead month. It has been pretty much a dead month to sell, and of course, right now the market's on fire, and it has been usually like it does every single year after the Super Bowl. So when you engage in multiple offer situations, you are going to turn off a percentage of the buyer pool in today's market. Now, again, if this market does correct and we end up going through a down cycle and another up cycle, this may be less of a factor, because when the prices are down and people are competing, they don't feel as if they're being pressed beyond what they're comfortable with. And while sellers don't really matter, it becomes a mathematical factor in the multiple offer strategy. Now, buyers should expect about 1% for every offer that you get. And if you come up with a strategy that turns off potential buyers by, saying, oh, we've got 5 or 7 offers on this one property, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th buyer saying, I'm not going to compete in that thing, which costs the sellers in another way. And these losses are... So when using the multiple offer strategy, you are going to turn off a percentage of the buyers in the pool. They just won't compete. And this is obviously cyclical. If we were back 5 or 7 years ago, I mean, some percentage of the buyers always went away. But the reality is the key to the multiple offer strategy is that you're attracting multiple offers, and for every offer you should expect to get about 1% more for every offer that you attract. Now, if you're turning buyers off and you're not getting that 1% for every additional buyer down the road, you're costing the sellers money. Reason number 3 is if you price low and your agent miscalculated the market in some way, shape, or form, you sometimes don't get offers. Now, this is a train wreck. In our area, not so much. I mean, the market's so tight that if you withdrew a house from the market, put it back on in a reasonable amount of time at a higher price, it could be explained away. But the thing to do is that you have to have an agent that's strong enough to be able to realize that he made a mistake, tell you that, hey, this didn't work, we need to pull the house off the market and put it back on. And this gets back to the agency versus salesperson discussion. Some agents will just sell through it and say, well, the house wasn't this, the house wasn't that, we can't pull off, it'll look really bad, blah, 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 blah. At least not in our area, and not in this market. Our market is just too darn tight. The house, if you miss on the multiple offer strategy, you should withdraw the property from the market, move it to where it needs to be, and sit and wait for the offers. Now, again, requires some serious agency skill to know when the right time to do this, to make sure that the math is right. But I've seen a lot of agents who don't. They will, if they come to the offer date and they don't get any offers, they'll just let the house sit, explaining away that your house wasn't good enough. I mean, we may, it's just there's other problems with your house, blah, blah, blah. And I've seen this happen twice. Once with the house that I had listed in Walnut Creek, another with the house that was in my farm. Both the agents listed for multiple offer strategies didn't get it. They held on to the market. Home sold below their list price. I have a friend, works for another company, who had the same thing happen. It was a hard to price house to begin with, and we had conferred on what the number would be and how, his multiple offer strategy. Well, it came to the offer date. He got multiple offers. They were over the list price, but they weren't the number that they needed to get to. And so, he was going like, well, I hate to pull this thing off. I mean, it would, look terrible. I was like, well, look, the bottom line is that the numbers that you got are just all lowball offers, which is reason number 4 for not doing this. And we'll get to that in a minute. But they were all lowball offers. It's like, your house is worth more than that. I know your house is worth more than that. So just tell your seller to take it off and move it to the price that he wanted to get. Well, 3 weeks later, he was on the market for 3 weeks, ended up getting 3 offers. He was able to leverage the 3 offers using a market level strategy, which we'll talk about in the next video, and ended up getting very close to what the seller wanted. And it was close enough that he was able to close the transaction, and his seller was happy. My friend was happy because he made it, and the buyers found a fantastic house. So it's a risk. We'll talk about risk in another video. That's on my list of future videos down the road. But using the multiple offer pricing strategy is a risk, and for the reasons that I mentioned on the first plan. The 4th reason is that yes, you could, like my friend, you could end up with 4 lowball offers or multiple lowball offers. That the strong buyers are going to say, I'm not competing for this property. Let the seller do whatever he wants to do. I'm not playing. And the people who do end up playing are the people that want a deal, who are buying a deal, buying a value property, and are willing to write on a low-priced house because they see value there. And then you end up with 4 lowball offers, which won't, each of these guys, when you try to pit them off one against the other, they won't move from their lowball price because they're buying value. And again, comes back. You got to have an agent who's strong enough to be able to say, well, we screwed up. Your house is definitely worth more. take your house off the market, raise it to a market, and let's pursue a market level strategy and move forward based on that. Again, this is all part of the agent's job, not the salesperson's job, but the agent's job, in order to know which strategy is the right strategy, when a strategy would work, knowing what the true value of a house is, and being strong enough to say, I've made a mistake and we need to move on to another program. So, back to the old video cut. Anybody who has sold anything on eBay knows this, and I'll give you a personal example. I have a hobby, and model railroading, and I sold 2 cars on eBay. They were absolutely identical, same road name, same color, same everything, same brand, bought at the same time. The only difference was there were 2 small numbers on each of the rail cars. So I put the cars on eBay, and I thought that I put it as a buy it now price of $59 each. These things retailed for $89, and in the secondary market these things don't hold value, but $59 was a reasonable price. And immediately I had a guy who said, I want to pay $59 for each of these cars. How can I do this? It says, I thought you said you could buy it now in your copy. And I said, well, since this was one of my first eBay situations, I thought I set it up that way. But I tried to change the settings. Somebody had activated something in the process that I was unable to go and sell these units for $59 each. So they ended up both going to auction. One of the cars attracted a $79 offer. The other car only went $49. So this was frustrating. I basically made the same amount of money either way, but it was still frustrating because I could have saved myself $12 in shipping on one of them by sending both of these cars to the same person, and I would have gotten $59 for each quickly, which is the benefits of, as stated, of doing things in an auction style, selling fast and selling for a reasonable number. The car is sold on their sale date, and the transaction completed fine. But again, if I just listed them at market properly with a market level price, I would have made the money just as quick. I would have netted the same, and I would have saved a little bit of money in the whole transaction. So when you're dealing with selling something in a multiple offer situation, you are only dealing with the buyers who happen to be in the market in that moment. So important factors then become time of year. If you're not selling at the optimum time of year, multiple offer strategy is risky. If you are not selling a perfect home that's hotly desired in a hotly desired area, there is risk in your transaction that you will not get what you would rightly earn if you chose a different way to sell your property. And thirdly is that even though you're selling fast does not always mean good. Fast means fast. Markets have a tendency to change for the positive and the negative, and it's a risk strategy. And all the years that people have been selling to their clients this multiple offer strategy, the market has been going one direction, and that's up. This has been going on since the process started becoming more familiar in the housing bust of 2005 to 2008, where the banks were putting houses up for auction, people were bidding the properties up, and so the market saw that on a frequent basis, and it became more common. But reason number 2 is that for the last 3 years we've been in a mostly flat real estate market. It's been up, it's been down, really prone to quarterly cycles. Selling in the fourth quarter are down, our 3 to 5% down has come back after a few years of going away through the subside, and July is pretty much a dead month. It has been pretty much a dead month to sell, and of course right now the market's on fire, and it has been usually like it does every single year after the Super Bowl. But again, this situation is not optimal for many different kinds of sellers. So you need to select a good agent, good reputable agent, to make sure that They are not just selling you a way to sell a lot of property quickly. Time is money from our end of the transaction. It's a law. I mean, your time is money as well. But since we only earn commissions by turning dollars, by selling property, obviously there's an economic incentive for us to sell the multiple offer strategy, because it allows us more time to sell more property and do more transactions, which is something that people respond to in our market. So there are pros. Fast sale means quick sale. Fast sale means strong buyer. Fast sale means time on the market is less. Get moving with your life a lot quicker. So downside number one is if you don't gauge the marketing correctly, if you don't gauge the market correctly, you could potentially leave money on the table or be forced to reduce your home in order to sell it. Number two is that this strategy isn't for everyone. In order to maximize value, at least in the context of value, the homes that are in the worst condition and the homes that are in the best condition are ideal for this sort of multiple offer situation, because typically those homes sell themselves, and the agent, all they do is we put the shine on the property and guide the seller through a transaction in order so that it closes properly. So this has been my vlog. If you want to have any questions for me, leave a comment. If you like these videos, tell a friend, share it with somebody you know who might be in the real estate market. Feel free to call me if you have any real estate questions or something that in this video that you want me to address specifically, and I'll address it in a future video. In the meantime, I'm Bob Georgiou with RE/MAX Accord, and we'll see you in escrow.